Hey everyone, Future Rob here from the editing booth. While I don't normally do a whole lot in post-production other than a little bit of noise reduction and trimming off the first and last seconds of the podcast so there's not a ton of dead air where it's just static and road noise, today's theme seems to be all about breaking with convention, so here we are. I did want to step in and start off this podcast by saying right up front that later on in this podcast, I completely screwed up the name of the author of the book that I had recently read, and I wanted to apologize in advance for messing up the name in the event that he chooses to listen to the podcast at a later time. So, Jason, if you're listening, I'm very sorry for getting the one thing wrong that I needed to get right, which is your name. I promise to do better next time when I talk about your next book on the podcast. With that said, back to past me, who is, at least at the time of recording, behind the wheel of my car. Or would that be my past car? I don't know. I never studied biology in school.
Greetings, Internet faithful. I'm some guy named Rob, and these are the thoughts from my car. It is Wednesday morning. It is ridiculously early on Wednesday morning. And I am cruising along the highways and or byways. I haven't decided which ones I'm taking. Don't at me in the comments. I was never a history major in school. However, that being said, I am cruising along those highways and or byways toward our nation's capital for yet another 8 to 4 shift at the weekly 9 to 5. And before I get started with this particular episode of the Thoughts from My Car, I do want to take this moment to apologize, because I'm going to break one of my cardinal rules about content creation. And that is that the content that I create should not solely exist for the purpose of talking about how I create the content that I am creating for all of you. It's just a spiral that leads nowhere except to a dramatic drop in quality. There's absolutely no point in being self-referential to the point of solipsism. So I may as well just go ahead and break this rule for a couple of reasons. One, I have to lampshade the fact that, wow, this new microphone is kind of amazing. And I have Mrs. Rob to thank for this. Mrs. Rob was actually out yesterday at the local Dollarama and found a, quote, gaming headset, end quote, and sent me a photo asking if I would be willing to take the chance on an investment of a whopping 5 Canadian Freedom Dollars in order to test out the sound quality of this particular unit, the unit that I am speaking through at this time while I'm behind the wheel of my car. And, of course, on a laugh, I decided to make the monumental investment because it was either that or buying a new cryptocurrency rig. And here we go. We've got the, quote, gaming headset, end quote, from the local Dollarama for the whopping price of $5 Canadian. And while the actual sound replication, like as in what you hear in the headset earpiece, is absolutely, well, how best to describe it? Dumpster fire doesn't quite make it there. If there was a sonic equivalent of a dumpster fire that was itself happening on top of a tire fire and used roadkill skunks as kindling, that would be the aural equivalent of, that particular image in your head. That sort of, because I know you can all smell the mental image that I just put in your head right now. By the way, you're welcome. And yeah, listening to content through this headset is absolutely brutal. But the microphone is shockingly competent at doing what it sets out to do, which is to capture my voice in a clear way, so that way I can record it here for all of you while I'm behind the wheel of my car. It is shockingly competent. And the reason why I keep repeating the phrase shockingly competent is because I'm not going to come right out and say it's really good. I mean, it's certainly a huge leap ahead of the wireless lavalier mic that I tried the last time, which clipped so badly that you could barely understand what I was saying. But wow, yeah, I can't imagine there being a better $5 microphone on the market today that you could use for car podcasting. I'm not sure if that's the type of quote they want to put on the box for this thing, but what the hell, it's $5. I won't leave a link in the doobly-doo because, quite frankly, I can't be bothered to look it up. But you know what? All that to say, because making a short story long is something I'm incredibly good at. Cheap tech can be had, and sometimes cheap tech is just cheap garbage tech, and sometimes cheap tech is just inexpensive ways of solving a problem in a way that is acceptable and gives acceptable results. I mean, the proof of the pudding obviously is in the eating, and since I can't eat this podcast, not yet, science hasn't figured out a way around that, we're working on it, I've seen the paperwork, and honestly, the research notes are quite encouraging. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, talking about content that exists for the purpose of creating content. So one, I do get to lampshade the fact that my voice is now audible over the road noise, which is, again, shockingly competent. Competently? Shocked at how competently? I don't know how to turn that phrase at this time of the morning, so you're going to have to accept my apologies on that one. But the microphone actually does block out a lot of the road noise that I hear inside the cabin of the car, because this is a sturdy, somewhat reliable, fairly dependable vehicle that I'm driving, but quiet it is not. Sound dampened it is not. I've actually measured highway speeds at about 85 decibels using a sound meter app at the point where I would normally be speaking. And yeah, that's a lot of decibels for me to have to project over. Not that I'm incapable of doing so. I'm quite capable of projecting my voice into the triple digits, but it's not something you really want me doing while I'm driving. And honestly, I don't want to be sitting in traffic looking like I'm having a screaming fit and, possibly being pulled over by the local constabulary to explain why I am ranting and raving at higher volumes than other people's car stereos just to tell you about what I'm thinking about while I'm driving into work. But yes, the noise cancellation on this microphone is excellent. The sound quality on this microphone for the price is excellent. So kudos to Mrs. Rob for finding this sort of diamond in the rough. And we'll see how long we'll see what the durability is on this thing, because it is very cheap feeling, and we may have to remount this microphone at some point in order to continue using it over the long term to record these thoughts from my car. But it is nice to know that I'm only a trip to Dollarama away from, maintaining sonic continuity in the event of a catastrophic failure. The other reason why I was going to have to, well, not have to, but why I was willing to break my rule about not creating content about creating content, is also that there was a comment on my last video saying that my natural sarcasm didn't seem to shine through in the particular episode of Thoughts on My Car, that I was very dry, that I was maybe a little monotone, maybe a little robotic. So I thought I would go over the process that I use for creating the Thoughts from My Car, just to kind of give an overview as to why I might not have been as animated as I would be during a normal conversation. The first thing, however, was I had to look up sarcasm in the dictionary, because it's not something I myself am familiar with. It's a concept that is completely foreign to me. So I did look up sarcasm in the dictionary, and then I had to cross-reference it with Wikipedia, and I got about 3 articles in before I realized that I was reading Wikipedia, which, while not entirely on topic, did provide me with a very, very interesting article about what happened to Luke Skywalker's other glove from Return of the Jedi, because you'll notice he only wears one black glove, and I always kind of wondered what happened with that other glove. But yeah, I mean, if you're in the mood to read an article regarding Luke Skywalker's other glove, I highly encourage you to write one, because I just basically made all that up, much like the rest of the content of These Thoughts From My Car podcasts. They're made up on the fly. They are not scripted. But all of that to say is that sarcasm is very difficult to achieve when you are driving along the road at highway speeds in pitch darkness, in fog so thick that you can't see more than, let's say, 100 meters in front of you, and you're in an area that is very, very well known for having high populations of deer that like to congregate right at the side of the road, and occasionally like to stop out and, beg for change or whatever by stepping in front of a moving vehicle. Deer are like just giant lemmings in that regard. However, giant lemmings that can destroy your vehicle if you happen to collide with them. So there's that. So that part of the road that I was recording on is what scientists would call a pants-shittingly terrifying stretch of, provincial pavement, or provincially maintained pavement, as it were. I don't know the exact term. I didn't study geology or anything. So, yeah, it's a little difficult to be funny when you're trying not to die, is what I'm trying to get across here. Again, the short story long being my forte. So, yeah, had to kind of break my rules to talk about those, to kind of highlight those things. Also, now that I've gone ahead and explained the two reasons why I'm willing to break my rule, I can actually get to the purpose of this particular podcast, as if it actually had a purpose. However, what I wanted to talk about was actually something really cool. In creating or recreating or rebooting or soft relaunching or whatever it is, whatever term you want to use for bringing back the Thoughts From My Car, for bringing up the content and posting it on the YouTube where this particular video / podcast is going to be hosted, I figured that things would be a lot like the last couple times that I put things online. I have a very small following. I would get maybe, at best, a dozen views or so on any particular video, with many of my videos performing about half as well as that. And I would put up a steady drip of content and maybe pick up the odd subscriber here or there, until one day reaching the lofty goals of maybe hitting double-digit subscriber levels. Now, the reason why I have such low expectations for things like that is this is essentially my fourth channel, with other channels having either been deleted or access lost or, other various YouTube stupidities, and I no longer have those resources available to me. So starting over for the third time on your fourth channel and having to rebuild everything from scratch without a large natural built-in audience or following on other social media channels, I set the bar at a reasonable level of expectation. Which means that I have been absolutely floored by the fact that I have videos that have triple-digit views. Music videos. Videos of ambient music that I myself have posted. Ambient music is not exactly a top 40 chart-burning genre. It's not something that people will talk about around the water cooler at work. By the way, if any of you work in an environment that has an actual water cooler, could you put it in the comments? Because I work in the prototypical, the stereotypical, add whatever typical, put typical as a suffix to any relevant word. There are no water coolers. There's water fountains, but there's no water coolers. And I really want to know, do these things really exist, or is this just something we've been told? Is this just workplace propaganda? I need to know. Leave it in the comments. And remind me in the comments that I asked you to post about this, because by the time I've posted this entire podcast, I will have completely forgotten that I asked you to do this. Thank you. Okay, where was I? So yeah, the ambient music genre isn't exactly something that's going to be a driving, burning topic of discussion. It's not really going to trend on Twitter. It's not something that's going to be a hot topic on Reddit. It's not something that is going to be the hot button thing that drives social media into a frenzy. In fact, quite the opposite. Ambient music is usually used to have a calming effect on things. So, yeah, I would expect people to not be all a flutter about ambient music. But the fact that my videos are getting triple-digit views is really cool. The fact that in about 6 or 7 months' time, I've got myself to 25 subscribers, which is the most I've had in the last 3 channels I've run, is pretty impressive, to me anyway. Again, I try to keep my expectations tempered. But the thing that really, really kind of blew my mind, the thing that I guess surprised me the most, was the fact that I had another content creator not only give me a shout out on Twitter, but also talk about me and link to my YouTube channel and link to my Twitter in their own blog, which I thought was pretty amazing. You know, you've kind of made it as a content creator when other content creators are also talking about you. So, I guess what I'm trying to say, because again, making a short story long is something that I'm incredibly good at, is that now that other content creators are talking about me, and it will, of course, be inevitable that this is going to be followed up by, book deals, movie rights, and of course the contractual obligation to make a cameo in the next phase of Marvel movies because, of course, Stan Lee had to go ahead and die, that selfish prick. Before the fame and the fortune really have time to sink in, I want to let all of you know you're welcome. You are welcome for me posting all of this content for you, so that way you can also enjoy the ride to success watching me have it. So, yeah. Speaking of awkward segues that come completely out of nowhere and are completely and utterly apropos of nothing, said content creator, although I guess it is related because it relates to the previous topic tangentially anyway, it doesn't matter. No one's paying attention at this point anyway to correct me in the comments. And if you correct me if I'm wrong, well, at least I know you listen this far, so go team me. But on another topic, the content creator, whose name is Jason Gardner, is also an author on top of a podcaster and Twitterati. I'm assuming Twitterati is a thing. If it's not a thing, I am taking full credit for coining that term, although I don't know why I would want to take credit for coining that term, because it's incredibly stupid. But anyway, here we go. I'm just going to roll with it. All right. So, Twitterati, podcaster, vlogger, and author, Jason Gardner. And oh my God, I just realized, I really hope I have his name corrected. Oh dear God, am I going to feel stupid if I don't have his name right? These are the problems that you have when you have the thoughts from your car and you record them from your car and you are driving in your car at highway speeds in the dark. You don't really have the ability to pull up a book and, check out the cover of the book to check on the spelling of the name. So here's what we're going to do. Right about now, or just after I finish with this next little bit, Future Rob, who is going to be editing this thing and is actually going to take a moment to confirm the name, is either going to say, "Hey, Future Rob here," and just to let you know, I got it right, so go team me, or Future Rob here. I completely fucked this up. Please allow me to grovel and beg at the feet of the person whose name I completely whiffed on. So you're going to get one of those right about now.
Hey everyone, Future Rob here, and yes, I completely fucked this up. Please allow me a moment to grovel and beg forgiveness at the feet of Jason Garden, author of You're Not Dead, and the person whose name I completely whiffed on. Apologies again. I will do better next time. Back to past Rob.
Thank you, Future Rob. Okay, so I read the newest iteration? I don't know if there is an iteration or I guess reprint. Well, I'm going to go with reprint because I never read the original print. So I don't know if there have been any edits, any things added. I don't know if there's a special edition with new visual effects and a completely superfluous alien character, a la George Lucas. But I did read the latest reprint of You're Not Dead, which is Jason's book. And it is interesting. And I know that comes off as very, very faint praise, but I want to explain something. This book is very, very difficult to talk about, and it's incredibly hard to review for a number of reasons. The first and foremost reason is that discussing the themes of the book might kind of give it all away. You're kind of taking the chance that you're going to give away too much information, get into a little bit too much detail, and spoil the experience for the reader. And I highly encourage all of you to read this book. I will post a link for this in the doobly-doo of the video, so do check the description of the video. I will have links. I'm also going to link to his Twitter and to his YouTube channel, because I do believe in returning a professional courtesy, even though calling this podcast professional is giving it way more credit than it could ever deserve. Anyway, so discussing the themes of the book, you have to walk a very fine line, because you don't want to give it all away. You don't want to kind of spoil it, because the second thing is this book clocks in at under 100 pages long. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Rob, that's barely a book. I have manuals for my TV that are longer than that. And I don't mean this in a disparaging way. This is not a long book. This is not a light read. This is a book that took me 3 days to get through, because it is heavy. It deals with a lot of things that are either going to hit very close to home for people, or it's going to remind you of people that you know that you may have been a little bit less than charitable toward, because you weren't really knowing what was going on inside their own head. It is, and again, trying to summarize this without giving it away. Okay, let's see what I can do. Because I really, really don't want to spoil this for all of you. I do want you to go out. I do want you to support the author. I do want you to go out and read this, experience it for yourself, and not have it spoiled for you by a hack like myself. So this deals with, well, let me see it. And if I had the back of the book right now that I could read the synopsis off of, I would feel comfortable doing that, because again, that's information that you would get like just picking up the back of the book and looking at it. So it's not really a spoiler, it's kind of a teaser. But I don't have the book with me, and even if I did, it is still completely dark, because it's only a few minutes past 5 a.m. to give you an idea of exactly how ridiculously early I left the house, because of how long I've already been rambling for this particular episode of Thoughts from My Car, and it is still only a couple minutes past 5 a.m. But all that being said, It deals with not quite an accident, but a turn of events that leaves our hero in less than ideal circumstances. And the struggle of our hero to regain what was lost, to regain what was taken from them as a result of this turn of events. It deals with a lot of internal monologuing, a lot of internal feelings. It's not told necessarily as a straight-up narrative. Like, this isn't the hero's journey where there's the call to action and the initial rejection and the this, that, and the other and a wizened old wizard. You're not going to find that here. It's also not strictly speaking autobiographical, though it is very, very, very much about the author. But it is a very fascinating read. And again, it's a very heavy read. And even though it clocks in at under 100 pages, this is not something you're going to breeze through in an hour. And I'm a speed reader. Like, I am very much a speed reader. Normally 100 pages of reading, that's like maybe 2 sittings at most. It took me 3 days to get through this book. But it is highly recommended. It's called You're Not Dead. Links are in the doobly-doo. And I do, again, highly encourage all of you to purchase a copy, have a read, leave a review, put up a word, one way or the other. Maybe even reach out to the author. I'm hoping that the book itself has contact links. But again, I'm going to link to the author's Twitter, who was kind enough to give me a shout out. And of course, that's going to propel me into superstardom. No doubt. I mean, it is inevitable. It is Thanos levels of inevitability, minus my being thwarted by a gang of Earth's mightiest heroes. Because let's face it, Iron Man's dead. Oh, wait, sorry. Spoiler warning. Iron Man's dead. Anyway, I'm going to leave this here because I'm rambling even more so than I usually do. So stay tuned for the sounds of me telling you that until next time, drive safe.